Oh my gosh.
Greetings and welcome to Drinkshares Last Call. I am your host for tonight, Rebecca Weaver, author of Proxy. With me, as always, are my giggling drinkables, who I will allow themselves to introduce themselves, along with my secret question for tonight, which is, are we ready?
Yes.
No.
What is your super secret embarrassing talent?
What?
Or if that doesn't
Does
work,
it have to be embarrassing?
it doesn't have to be embarrassing, but it's better if it's embarrassing. Okay, if not a super secret talent that we don't know you have, what is something that we're not gonna laugh, this is a safe place, something that is kind of like
internet.
I don't think I
secret
agree to that
guilty
one.
pleasure.
Oh, a guilty pleasure.
I think we're probably gonna actually laugh at each other, so
Yeah, but in like a
Probably.
loving way, not in a critical way.
yeah.
Requires thought.
So if not your secret about like your secret skill, what is your secret guilty pleasure that you don't let people know about?
Okay, well, I have a secret talent, and I think this is a pretty good story because I grew up very sheltered and innocent, and I knew nothing about the implications of things. And so in college, I went to a private Christian college that it was a dry campus, so we weren't allowed to have any alcohol at all. But we would do chugging contests with other things, like Mountain Dew or hard cider, stuff like that. And I won every single chugging contest ever. I can chug like that. I am so good at it. And so I was explaining it to these people when I beat a bunch of guys. Once I was like, no, it's really easy. You see, I just tilt my head back and I open my throat and I can swallow with my mouth open. So that's how it's really easy to just let it all go down my throat. And they were
You
like,
had 1,000 boyfriends after that.
no, I did not. No, I had 0 boyfriends. But I had no idea what I was saying. So it's really embarrassing in retrospect. But at the time, I was just really proud because I was beating all these people at these chugging contests. And that's my embarrassing talent. It's not really embarrassing.
All right, Christine.
Wait, Kara didn't actually introduce herself.
Oh, hi. I'm Kara.
It's a great start tonight.
It's going to be the way everybody remembers me. Oh, my gosh. My name is Kara Weston. I go by AC Weston. I'm the author of She is the End. It's coming out this fall. Science fiction space opera. It's really good. You should read it.
Nice.
Okay, someone else go.
Christine.
Right. I'm thinking.
Okay, Joe.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Joe Treziva. I'm author of Lost Generation. You can pre-order it now on inkshares.com. You can probably hear my dog in the background because he's a butthole. My secret talent / obsession is I really like 3D printers, but I'm not like a 3D modeler. But I'd like to be. So I always want to, and I manage, my day job is I manage programmers, and my like secret like fantasy is that like one day I'm gonna get good enough that I can model little like statues of like the programmers, and for like Christmas give them like a little mini version, like cartoonized version of them to put on their desk.
That would be cool.
But
Can't you do that now?
Well, I'd have to
with
like
today's technology.
Yeah, totally, but I'd need the skills to do it.
Okay.
And I don't have those. So that's like when I'm done writing a book and I can have some actual time on my hands, I'm gonna make little miniature versions of my employees so that they can have a desk buddy.
You sound like you're a cool boss.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were a boss.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of micromanagement. I just try to make sure that people don't screw anything up too bad, and
That's the best kind.
do the best job
Cool
they can.
boss.
Cool boss.
Cool boss, Joe.
Cool boss also has to be good boss and do a job boss. But you know, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's good. You know, you just kind of roll with it.
I bet you have sympathy for your employees who have a hard time concentrating.
Yes, I do. as I can relate to that. So But it's also hard because you got to get projects done and you got to get stuff done. And I work some jobs where you work long hours. You're like we had like mandatory weekends and things like that. And I just try to make sure that everybody puts in a solid work week and doesn't have to work late and doesn't have to work on the weekends or things like that. Because just because you have a job doesn't mean they own you. And I like to keep it that way.
All right, Christine, did you think of your secret?
I guess it's not a secret, and it's not embarrassing, but I thought of something to say. So I'll work on it later. That's a big question.
I will hiss if necessary.
Well, okay. If I think of something later, I'll say it. But
okay.
Now,
you must stop everything that's going on and say, I have thought of something.
Exactly. All right, for now, what I'm going to say is that I collect perfume oil samples, and I do reviews that are on the internet for people to read.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that paid?
The things that got me into writing more regularly, like 5-6 years back, was writing reviews.
That's so random.
Yeah.
How do you get involved with that?
Ooh, I think there was a Jezebel article that mentioned this perfume company, and then I checked it out, and it was really cool. They're like literary-based perfumes. And then somehow I just got sucked into that rabbit hole.
That's really neat.
You should give us a link of that so that we can.
I totally will.
I'm gonna totally put a note in here so we actually remember that. Because one thing I realized with these shows is that a lot of times we say, "Oh, we should put a link in for that," and then
we never do.
Joe, you might not realize, but I've been giving you that information in
I know.
the notes.
I know, and then I forget.
Okay.
So, I'm not saying that this is a you problem.
All right.
All right.
Did I introduce myself?
I don't think you did.
All right. I'm Christine Brennicky, author of 7 Shards. On to you, Becky.
Well, I already introduced myself. You know me as Rebecca Lieber. Like I said, I'm author of Proxy. I have a draft on Inkshares. And my secret that is not a secret among my friends, and I think I've only ever talked about it with Christine, but my secret skill is that I'm a really fast peer. Like, I can pee in under 30 seconds.
Yes!
And I remember one time I was reading a Rolling Stone article with Jennifer Lawrence, and she was being interviewed. And in traditional Jennifer Lawrence style, like, the guy pulls up to where they're being interviewed, and I guess they were going to go horseback riding or something, and she's late. So he shows up to the place where they're supposed to go horseback riding and do this interview, and she, like, rolls up in her car and, like, gets out of the car and is like, hold on 1 second. And she, like, runs off into some trees, and she's like, I gotta pee, I'll be right back. So she goes into to pee in the trees and comes back in, like, a really short amount of time. And the guy commented on, like, wow, you pee really fast. And I read this, I was like, no, that's my thing. I'm the fast peer. So I've decided if I ever befriend...
the fastest.
Yeah, like, if I ever befriend Jennifer Lawrence or I meet her in a dark alleyway, I'm gonna be like, it's on.
Pee right now.
Now.
Oh my gosh.
What are you guys drinking today?
Huh?
What are you guys drinking today?
Oh, I am just drinking my blackberry cider because I got home so late I didn't really have any time to prep. So
I'm drinking.
What are you drinking? What are you reading? Because then you have to say what you're reading.
Hopping right through to it.
Well, yeah. I know.
Sorry, I couldn't remember if that happened in the intros. That's my bad. I jumped the gun.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't remember who was hosting
I'm off my game. I'm off
Bad boss show.
Sorry.
Bad
show foul. Show foul, Joe.
Sorry.
Joe is not feeling well today.
So, Joe.
I have some brain issues.
Since you seem so gung-ho about it, what are you drinking and what are you reading, Joe?
I'm not reading anything, unfortunately. I'm in between books right now. I gotta get on top of it, but it's been kind of a busy week. Paul Inman's Ageless actually came out today.
Oh yeah, Ageless. The ebooks are out.
The ebooks are out today. So if you are looking for a book to read or you have already pre-ordered that book, you can go to Inkshares on your library and you can download that book right now for is it just
for some money?
For some money.
What is money? It's all digital. Zeros and ones on a computer. Who cares?
Kindle ebook, and then
Don't
I
listen
think
to me.
it's Kindle and ebook. There's no the PDF, right? It's just
I give bad advice.
I don't remember the format.
Paul is
Yeah, I don't remember
the
the options.
co-host of Right Brain podcast.
Would JF do both?
It's true.
Yes. So we like Paul.
And
Yay,
Paul can rap.
Yeah,
Your
he
book
can
came
rap.
out.
He can put together an excellent trailer. He's a man
He's
of many
extremely
talents.
good at trailers, yeah.
He's just media savvy.
He has many of
Yeah,
the
he is super
finest
media savvy.
qualities that can be found in a man.
And then, since my brain was not functioning properly, I'm drinking some tea to get the neurons firing correctly. And then, once that is done, I've got this. I found this. This is Unity Vibration Kombucha beer.
Oh, God.
Isn't that what JF had? It totally like rocked his world.
Did it? Is this the thing that like set
He
him
had
over the edge?
kombucha.
That sounds like a bunch of
Kombucha beer or regular?
He had, I think, just regular kombucha at Drinkshares.
Oh,
Yeah.
And,
which
and so
tastes
this
like
one-
vinegar.
yeah,
I
it's
would say.
well. So this one is like blood orange. So like I smelled it, and it like I think the blood orange counteracts the vinegary smell. It's just I saw it at the store when I was trying to pick up alcohol yesterday, and it seemed and it also said it was like a limited run. So I said I have
How
to
many
try that. I
ounces
must
is
know
that,
that.
Joe?
What's that?
How many ounces is that? That bottle looks huge.
22.
Okay.
So does
So-
that beer claim to be healthy because of the kombucha?
It's raw, gluten-free, and vegan. It is
such a hipster drink.
love.
So
It says
hipster.
love health possibility on it, but it doesn't like say.
There's
It says
some pretty
unpasteurized,
pictures.
so like if I disappear at some point because I get sick in the middle of the stream, you know, it's because I drank this unpasteurized kombucha beer.
interesting.
You'll just throw up on the screen.
Well, I mean, why not?
Please not.
I'm eating a burrito. Joe can throw up. I mean, whatever.
We are doing
That just makes it more
flying by the
interesting
seat
for
of our
the
pants this time.
It's life. They come here for the show, okay?
viewers.
They come here for real life.
That's right. We're like the Truman Show that knows we're being filmed. So, Christine, what are you drinking? What are you reading?
Alright, I am drinking Ravenswood Vintner's Blend. It's a red wine, and if they happen to be watching, I would like them to add a serial comma to the back of their label when they're describing, because it's missing one, and that kind of bothers me.
Copy editor.
But it tastes good, so that's what counts. And I'm really not really reading anything right now. I'm like all Camp Nano all the way. No time to read.
This is a busy month for people. It's like hard to.
It is.
We're all like, "What are you reading?" Not a thing.
Nothing.
I'm reading the back of my eyelids when I go to sleep.
Oh, nice.
So I
Right
think
now?
I'm the only one reading a book. That's
Oh,
weird.
good.
So, okay, so Kara, if you're not reading anything, what are you drinking?
Well, this is chamomile tea because I'm feeling
Oh, you too?
under the weather. And I realized that even though it's washing off because we didn't bake it long enough, you can see the marks. These were my Fifth Element mugs that I decorated
Oh, cool.
with the patterns
great
from the
idea.
Fifth Element stones. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to do a better job on it next time. So yeah, chamomile tea, and I'm not reading anything right now, but I'm going to be reading something that I'm really excited about. I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to be reading, I'm beta reading A Beast Requires
Oh, good.
for Jay Lockwood,
I haven't seen Jason.
Oh.
Been around
which
much.
was a book in the Nerdist contest that I was in, and
Me
he
too.
didn't win either, and he also didn't fund his campaign the first time around, so I think he's going to self-publish now. But it's really good and it's really fun. It reminds me a lot of Carrie Pratchett. It's whimsical.
Ooh.
It's this murder mystery set in in a slummy part of an enchanted forest.
Oh, that does sound awesome.
It's really fun. He's really clever. But it changed into a whole new level of book when he told me that for the main character I should imagine Chris Hemsworth. Because like if you don't get that right away, you're like, this could be anybody. This could be some random guy. And he's like, no. Imagine Chris Hemsworth.
No
Don't
problem.
mind if I do.
So anyway, A Beast Requires. That's what I will be reading.
Cool. That sounds fun.
Nice.
Oh, that reminds me. I'm supposed to be alpha reading. Fuck. I can't remember the name.
I don't think there's such a thing as alpha reading, Joe.
That's what it was told. He said, "Hey, don't worry about it."
That's just a made-up thing.
No,
I want to read
read-
this book. I want to read this book called Fuck that Joe's talking about.
Ghost
That
of
just
War. I have to
sounds
read Ghost of War. I have to read it, and I lost. I freaking.
But the alpha read is the author reading their book.
No, the alpha read because it's not complete yet.
No, that's like the Omega read.
The alpha read is like the, hey, this is my rough draft. Take a look at it. Make sure that it's going places.
That's kind of what my initial
So it's more of
beta
your
read
developmental
was.
editor. You're being his
Or-
developmental editor.
But it's not like I'm just kind of like getting a feel for it. It's not like, hey, be super critical of it right now. So, but it's good that we mentioned this because now I have to make a note to
Reminder.
to actually read it, to put it on my phone because it just fell off
Put
my
in
radar.
that cool watch of yours.
I do need
Yeah, that thing.
to watch. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'm the only one reading anything right now, and I'm actually following up Sacre Blue by Christopher Moore with Christopher Moore's first book, which is called Practical Demon Keeping. And I decided to follow up Christopher Moore with Christopher Moore because I don't want to brag or anything, but Christopher Moore and I have been talking on Twitter, and that super blew my mind because he's my favorite author ever.
You've
And
just
it
been
started.
talking on Twitter?
Yeah, just like having a conversation. It's awesome. It all started because the representative from our district got in a lot of trouble and had to leave. So he was making fun of him on Twitter, and I said something about how awesome it was that Christopher Moore was mocking my shamed representative, and then it started a conversation from there. So we were actually kind of talking about something that I was having trouble with, which is with writing my story and it being kind of historical fiction, struggling with the struggling with what can I make up and what can be historically accurate and what needs to be historically accurate and what needs to be made up. And so I was kind of talking to him about that because he's really good at just making shit up and you never know it was made up because he does such a good job of research. And so that kind of leads us into our discussion tonight on information with advice you have received or terrible advice you have received, and kind of talking about when you are an author, where do you go for help, especially when you are an early author, a late stage author, if you're getting ready to publish something, like where do you go for help if you are an author, and what are sources that are good and what are sources to probably steer clear of.
Here's dying.
Don't die.
Agreed.
Cool. All right. Oh no.
For those who maybe listen to an audio version in the future, Kara's dying right now, so that's why I'm having a bit of dead air. She's got a microphone mic, but it's happening. This is happening.
Yes.
We're all just waiting in anticipation to see what happens.
We do need to
die.
know. We want to see.
You better cut that out of the audio for the podcast version.
It was,
Well, you muted yourself.
yeah, you muted
Yeah,
yourself.
but not on Zencaster.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So
I didn't
the
die.
other question I wanted to ask you guys tonight is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received as an author, and what is the worst piece of advice you've ever received as an author?
Who's starting?
Great. I'm going to start, but this is a terrible place to start. I forewarn you. I hate all advice unless it's the advice that tells you not to listen to advice.
You hate all of that advice? That's my favorite advice.
That's the only good advice.
What?
Do what works for you.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
just said you hated all that advice that says
All of the advice except for the advice that says.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you and I are on the same page then.
Yes,
So you don't like
are.
go on and like read anything about like tips or like.
Or craft?
I mean, I end up reading stuff, but like I've like a really rebellious side when I'm told what to do in a very specific way.
You're like, oh yeah? Well, I won't
You're
then.
like, well, I'll do it this other way then.
I'm only rebellious if I've done it and I know it doesn't work that way. Like, if I know a better way to do it, like, that's how I'm at work, and maybe that's why I get into trouble. Because I'm like, okay, this activity we're doing, or this concept, or whatever like function is stupid. It doesn't work. I know. Let's try anything else. Let's throw stuff against a wall until we see what sticks. And no one ever wants to be like, no, we would much rather keep doing this stupid thing that doesn't work because we know that's acceptable.
That's a thing that happens at many workplaces.
Yeah, that's really frustrating to me.
Well, not to go on a public education rant, but that's the way children are being raised right now. Like, that's the way public education works.
Mm-hmm.
Children are taught that they can only think in the way that some authority told them to think, and that creativity is bad, and they shouldn't be creative or problem solve outside the box.
Yeah.
That's
that's the way of education right now.
I just got in a conversation with my kids the other day because, you know, I'm always having to get on and I'm like, hey, you're not turning your homework in, so you have an F. But they're always like, okay, so my grade's important, my grade's important. I was like, no, your grade's not important, it's what you learn. But I only know if you learned because of your grade. So you got to do your work to know, so I know you know that you know what I taught you. And that's totally mind-boggling to them.
Sorry to derail the conversation.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it's totally legit.
I would love to get on a rant about public education and the state of it.
Some other time.
I had something and now it's gone. You're gonna get a lot from me today where like I have an idea and it's gone. I don't have a notepad in front of me, so it's just gonna be like I had something I was gonna interject here and now it's not gonna happen.
Well, you were gonna talk about that writing advice that made you so mad.
Ooh, what was that?
It's not on my section, is it? Is this a time for me or is Becky done? Or
well, no, we're just talking about the best and worst advice. Okay. So I guess
I didn't know if we were like jumping around.
That was more of a Joe goes on a rant kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Don't let anybody tell you how you should feel about writing, and what is the right way to write. That's my worst advice, or my advice that is not good. Writing is a personal experience, and you're writing for you. I mean, you're writing for other people. I mean, if you're trying to sell, you know, if you want to make something that's marketable, that's up to you, but it doesn't have to be marketable. It does, I mean, if you want to actually like make a career of it, but you know, writing is different for everybody. And that's kind of the joy of it. You know, writing can be, you know, commercial, it can be therapeutic, it can be, you know, kind of discovery, you know, it can be so many things for you. And if somebody tells you that there's a right way or a wrong way to feel about writing, it's different for everybody. So make sure that if anybody tells you how to feel about writing, you tell them to shove it up their butt.
Yeah. I think probably the thing that bugs me the most is the taking the marketability angle only, and making that just everything. Like everything about your book, you have to think about how the market works right now and what's in and what's trending and what the prevalent advice is, and you know, like I had someone tell me that my book should be first person because Hunger Games is first person, and so now everybody's going to want first person books. So you shouldn't write in third person right now if you want to sell your book.
Yeah,
actually, there wasn't even the tag of if you want to sell your book. It was just it should be.
I'm getting really sick of first person.
Yeah,
well, see, it's a young adult thing. I've noticed that there tends to be a young adult angle to that because you want to feel the personal experiences of this young character, so you can put yourself into it and experience those experiences because you're in a, you know, as a young adult, you're in a situation where you're constantly trying to figure out who am I and what am I good at and what am I bad at, and so it's so easy for you to slip into one person, and that's why they want first person, to make it malleable for young minds to be able to attach on and say, oh, this is me. I see these qualities in me.
Yeah, just like there's definitely stories where it makes sense to tell it that way, but it's very irksome when people then start, you know, advising everybody to start writing in first person because it's in right now. Because it's not for every story.
Yeah, and I think that that you just can't write that way. I mean, I guess people can. Some people can. I just can't write that way.
I can't either. I hate writing first person.
Well, and I don't mean first person. I mean writing to whatever I think will sell.
Oh, yeah, gross. Yeah.
Like, I just can't do it.
Well, it's like, do you want to be, do you want to be a market leader or like this is like business stuff, not really like writing stuff, but like you want to be the leader, or you want to be the follower, you know?
Yeah.
Do you want to like, you know, Apple didn't get to where they were today by saying, hey, let's go make just okay laptops, or let's see what everybody else is doing and make something that's like that. They took risks and they went out there and made weird things that everybody said was going to be garbage. I remember when they announced the iPad, and everybody was like, iPad, you know, that sounds like, you know, a feminine product,
it did sound like a horrible name at first.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that name was so dumb, and it's changed everything. You know, tablets are everywhere. You know, there was a time, you know, it's like I feel like we went into the recession a different world, and we came out in this like crazy future where like everybody had a computer in their pocket, and there's like tablets and screens everywhere, and you're touching them to do things. And you know, when my son was born, he knew how to touch a screen and interact with it before he knew how to use a controller or a remote to interact with it. And all this is because somebody took a risk and said, hey, let's go do this. You know, let's try something new that nobody's ever done before, or you know, people have done it, but let's refine it to a point to where, you know, it really works well. And you should do that with writing too. Don't do something because somebody else is doing it. If somebody else is doing it, you have the potentiality to be an also-ran, to be all YA books are this, so I got to be this. You know, Harry Potter is super successful, so I'm gonna make a Harry Potter clone or something like that. It's like, no, that book exists already. People already got that. Where do you belong?
There's obviously a market for that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 13,000 vampire versus werewolf books.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Well, that's still the difference between being a leader or being a follower.
Yeah, it's
true. Like, you can do something that is like, you know, the Divergent to the Hunger Games.
Do you want to
and sell like 75% of whatever the huge hit sold, or you can try and make something new, and maybe you'll sell 1%, or maybe you'll be the next Harry Potter.
Yeah, take a risk.
That's what risk is about. Yeah.
Do you want to be the river, or do you want to be the runoff? That's what it comes down to me.
That's deep, Joe. Did you come up with that yourself?
I'm not even 3 beers in.
You're right.
That wasn't a 3-beer quote.
1 tea. 1 tea equals 3 beers.
Can you imagine the 3-beer ideas we're going to be getting from Joe?
Yeah, I know. I just I have like this much of the drinks so far. I'm already popping off.
Well, kombucha every show then.
Kombucha is where it's at apparently. But it's like, yeah, what do you want to be? You want to fill that pool with your vampire werewolf story? By all means, do it. I mean, if that's where your heart is, but put your words where your heart is. That's what I think. And if your heart is, you know, making a Harry Potter clone, good, do that. That's what you should do. That's where your book is going to be better if that's what you believe in. And if you're writing something that you don't believe in just to fill a niche, don't do it. Or do it. It's up to you.
Yeah, people can write whatever they want.
Do what you feel like. If you want to fill a niche.
Yeah, what works for you.
Yeah. I think there's also an element that's maybe not so great of like using logic that says, well, that's the way the market is, whether it's good or not. Like,
right.
Sci-fi with female protagonists just doesn't sell. That's the way the market is. It doesn't matter whether it should be that way. That's the way it is. So just deal with it. Your book's not going to sell. You know. Whereas I want to be
that's not how progress is made.
You know, I want to be the change that I wish to see in the world. Even if my book doesn't sell, I'm not going to use that as a reason not to write a sci-fi book with a female protagonist. You know, or what have you.
If you have a story in you, like, tell it. Don't worry about, you know, what other people want to read or what other people think about how you're telling the story. Just tell your story.
It seems despite the contentiousness of super nerds, female protagonists in sci-fi are quite in right now.
They're doing pretty darn well, yeah.
They're doing all right, and anybody who has on the internet that has a problem with it, well, there are a lot of people who have a problem with it. Here's my unsolicited advice to people who have a problem with female protagonists in science fiction books and movies. Go make your own. If you don't like it, be the change you want to be. You don't have enough men in science fiction? Do it. Do it. Get on Drinkshares. Get your book in.
There just aren't enough men.
Not that See, Joe, the problem is not that there aren't enough men in science fiction. The problem is that some, I'm going to say men, don't want anyone else to have any slice of the pie at all. If they do, it feels like the world is crumbling.
Yeah, well.
I think that has to do a lot
What's in it for them?
I think that has to do a lot with masculinity being defined as, well, if I'm not saving the damsel in distress, what's my job in the sci-fi movie? Like, we were talking about that the other day with, I think you guys brought it up actually on the other chat. Why can't I think of it? The women slaying, or the slaying sci-fi. Was it women slaying sci-fi?
Women slaying sci-fi.
Okay, I'm totally botching that, sorry. But I think that was one of the things that got brought up, is how protagonists are brought in only to be, in some way, an advancement for the male characters. So when you have a really intelligent person who's a female, it's only to help the main character. It's not that she's the character and she does something really amazing. I mean, look at Hermione in Harry Potter, since we were talking about that. Hermione is clearly the leader of that group, but she's always there to advance Harry in his quest. Never once for her own. I mean, she makes so many sacrifices in that book, and it's only ever to advance Harry because it's his story.
She does a lot for the elves.
She does. And was that ever brought up in a movie? No.
No, not in the movie.
It wasn't. But the books are better than the movie.
Always are.
I mean, I don't know. I think Harry Potter did a pretty good job with Hermione. Personally.
No, it did a great job with Hermione,
I mean,
but the point I'm trying to make is her job was to help Harry.
Well, I mean, Harry was as much of a MacGuffin as anything. Like, he's this object of this prophecy, which, yeah, you know, like, that's not exactly original at all. But the end goal was to defeat this massive evil that was going to destroy everyone's lives, not just help Harry with whatever he was interested in at the time or something, you know.
No, I'm not saying that it was...
It was for the greater good.
It was for the greater good, but Harry would have never done without Hermione.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
He would. First off, the series would have ended at the fourth book if it wasn't for Hermione. So, because he would have died in the Goblet of Fire.
I think they would have died a lot. Yeah. But your overall point is, I mean, I think I was the one making that overall point in the...
Yeah, so you should be great with me.
So I'm not arguing your overall point at all.
You're just arguing the example I used from overall point.
Yeah. I mean, Hermione means a lot to me.
Oh,
I see a lot of value
Hermione. For a while,
you know,
I was convinced that J.K. Rowling followed me around as a child, so... I was the kid that the teacher in class told to stop raising their hand.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of us are.
Yeah.
But what was I saying?
Female protagonist sci-fi. That is a perfect face, by the way.
Oh man, it froze.
Did it freeze on that face?
Oh no.
Oh, for listeners who can't see right now.
Okay, it's starting to move.
Kara made a strong face of consternation, and it froze.
Did I? Oh my gosh. Okay.
You do that all the time.
Yes, well, I mean...
You pick the worst times to make unfortunate faces.
It's the only face I have. Sorry.
Oh, I a lot of faces.
Similar to my book, I do not put myself through life trying to simply be the most attractive to the most number of people.
The most entertaining.
Yes. But what I was going to say was your comment, Becky, that you made about guys asking themselves, who am I supposed to relate to if I'm not the main character in this book, or like the one that I relate to most?
What's so hard about relating to a woman?
Well, men are never made to relate to anyone else besides themselves. White men. Sorry. White men are never forced to relate to. I guess it depends on what you're exposed to when you're growing up. It's probably... Your parents probably have influence on that. But, you know, it's hard to fight the media. It's very pervasive. So they're just... It's uncomfortable to expect yourself to, like, relate closely to Ray if you've never been forced to relate to a female main character before, as like putting yourself in her shoes, because everything female is
wrong.
Other.
Denigrating.
No.
Considered denigrating.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I could relate to John McClane in Die Hard. He's a guy, I'm not, but I can sure see myself crawling through some air vents, feeling like a microwave dinner. Because, that's just what I grew up with, That's what I watched, and I just wanted to be that main character. It didn't matter that it was a guy. So I think guys are going to have to start getting used to wanting to be Rey. Because she's super cool.
And I think, our generation is definitely having that shift. There's a lot more guys that get it these days than in the previous times.
I like to hope so.
I thought it was last night I was watching the MTV Movie Awards because I'm a child, and when Star Wars won, I think, Best Picture.
Oh yeah.
The actress that plays Rey, now I can't remember her name.
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy and J.J. Abrams came out to accept the award, which was nice because the lead up to the show, everything was Finn and everything was showing him with the lightsaber and stuff, and now that the movie is out, they're actually leaning on who the real main character is.
I thought it was so funny that people were surprised that she was the main character, because with the initial, the very early trailers, I thought it was super obvious that she was the main character. Yeah, it seemed
fairly obvious, but they were showing Finn with the lightsaber, so that was kind of everybody was like, oh, he's the Jedi, So I thought that was cool. I also thought that it's really interesting when you watch kind of contemporary award shows versus a more youth-based award show like MTV, because you do see a lot of those more progressive trends towards featuring more women and things like that, because the youths, that's what the youths are asking for.
The youth.
You sound old.
The youth.
I say that half ironically. And, the other half is like, I wish my body looked good.
I used to be one of those. It doesn't. Yeah.
So, have any of you guys actually received any good advice then? Because we've just pretty much destroyed how advice works.
No, for sure.
I prefer support over advice.
Okay. Well, anything. Okay. Has anyone ever helped you through something in your writing that was like, man, that makes so much sense, and you carry it with you now, or it changed something you did?
Yeah, I actually have good advice. It's not all bad advice.
Yeah, I have lots of good advice too.
The best advice, the game changer advice that I got while writing Lost Generation was when I was writing. I was writing the story, and I was reading different books, trying to figure out how to make it as good as it can be. And one book, it really the key point that it was really pressing was the emotional impact. How do you, when you're writing, what do you expect the reader to feel? And to always keep that in your mind, because readers are coming to you not just to get a story, but also to feel something. They have there's a hole in there that needs to be filled in some way, and when you think about that, when you're writing your scenes, and you think about what do I want the emotional impact of this to be on the reader, it is just something that I never really thought about. You think about story structure and oh, this needs to hit these beats because this is how a scene is constructed, and this is how the characters need to be, and then but you're really, when you're writing a book, it's almost like you're creating you're creating an experience, you're creating a ride that you're taking the reader on, and you want them to feel things, and to not think about that, I think, is going to put you at a disadvantage.
Where did you get that advice from, Joe?
I will actually look it up while other people are giving advice, because I'll pull up my Kindle stuff, and it's on my Kindle, but I don't have it up right now. So I am going to check this out.
The only reason I ask that is because one of the things that I think is really important for people to do is seek out mentors and people who can, I mean, they don't even necessarily have to be like-minded in genre or writing skill or writing style. Just if you like the way someone writes, find them and ask them questions, because I think it's really important to have someone, especially if you don't have the kind of community we have at Drinkshares, where I can just get on Slack like I did this week and it was like, hey, I need help with this. Like, I'm having trouble with this problem. Thoughts. Mm-hmm. And we do that all the time. We always do it. And somebody who doesn't have that community, who's writing in a vacuum, needs at least one person that they can go to and say, please read this, or tell me what's wrong with this, or I'm having trouble with this idea or this concept, or, you know, fill in the blank with this problem. I think that's really important to find somebody who has been there, done that, and can help you.
The book that I think was really big for me is called Techniques of the Selling Writer. And it was originally published in 1965, so it's been around.
Nice.
It's an old one. Yeah, it's an old one. It's got a lot of sections in it that are kind of dated, but there's just a section in it that, like, it really pushes, like, the emotional aspect of writing and how you do that. So if you're looking for a craft type book to read, I recommend Techniques of the Selling Writer. You can get it on Kindle.
Circa 1965.
Yeah, I assume that you can still get paperback versions. In this one, it says the paperback version was published in 1981, republished. So I don't know if there's a newer version than that. But I've got my version.
I have images of, like, this was written by Don Draper.
It's written by Dwight V. Swain.
That's even better.
But it's a really good book, and I recommend it to people that have, like, haven't had their fill of writing books. I suggest you seek that book out.
You know what? I think there's nothing wrong with reading craft books when you're first starting out, but you hit a point in which reading craft books doesn't cut anymore. Like, you can always become a better writer, but the problems you start to have when I think you get to the point we're at, where we have established stories, we've fleshed out our characters, we have our plots lined out, we have all of the planning is done. And I think so much of what is on writing websites and in craft books and all of that is tailored to how do you become the first phase of a writer. And I think there's very little tailored to the second phase of being a writer, and that's really frustrating. That's why I like the Terrible Minds blog by Chuck Wendig, because not only does he,
his blog.
I do too. I really like him a lot, just everything. But what I like about his website is it, like, here's how to plot here's how to do an outline, or here's how to create a character. He does everything in 25 points. So here's 25 things every writer should know. Here's 25 ways you can build a better character. Here's 25 ways you can create a compelling plot. And it's not just cookie cutter step 1, step 2. It's funny and real life and brutally honest. And he will basically tell you, if you can't cut it, if you can't do the things that you need to do, then you don't need to be a writer. And I just love that he is brutally honest, because sometimes you need to hear that.
Yeah, that's something that read it writers definitely need, is, like, especially when you're starting out, before you've submitted anything, is honesty is hard to come by, especially when you're only working with your friends and family, because they want to support you. Mm-hmm. So I think they tend to sway more in the area of, oh yeah, it's really good, and that might not always be the case. So definitely, I think people should seek out people that are and to be straightforward with them and say, hey, listen, you got to tell me if this is shitty, and or, you know, don't spare my feelings, because I'm putting a lot on the line here. You know, like, writing a book is not something you do in an afternoon.
Kara's going to disagree with that. I can tell.
No, I just want to throw out there that you have to be discerning, because you can get completely opposite reactions from two different people who tell you, like, this part is great, the best, and I loved it, and this part was really weak, and you really need to change it or cut it completely. And somebody else will say the opposite thing. So you have to know
Yeah.
yourself
Well, that's
and what
like,
you are writing.
We were talking about the other
have
day.
to-
There's a book several or all of us read, and there was a part that I thought was really weak that you guys thought was really strong.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And that
yeah,
can just
yeah,
come
yeah.
down to opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to know what you're going for. Like,
Well, and that's why it's important to have
author.
multiple readers, multiple beta readers or alpha readers if you're Joe. But you need to have people from different backgrounds and places, especially if they're writers from different genres. You want to cast a wide net, so the most effective, like, critical feedback is going to come back to you.
Yeah, I think it's important to the final boss is you. Like, you know what's right for your book. But you like that you can't see the forest from the trees is totally true. You know, you don't know how many people you can interpret your book a certain way, but it's because you've had so much more time with it. So you don't really know how people are going to react to it until people start reacting to it. And if you're surrounded by yes men and yes women that are just saying this is fine and everything is good and you're doing a great job, and then you send it out to the world and everybody says that it's a clunker and it's garbage and I don't want to read it, like, that's not doing anybody a service, you know. But if you write something, you tell people to be honest with you, and they say, I don't really like this scene, I think it stinks, but you read it and you say, no, it's important because of X, Y, and Z, you know more than they do. I mean, you're the one working on it, and you know, solicit honest advice, but also know that all the advice is opinions.
Yeah, there was this one scene that Alex, my husband, for those who don't know, DA in AC Weston, he's my developmental editor. Alex told me that I should cut because he thought it was redundant, and I was like, what are you talking about? This is one of the most important scenes in the book. What are you talking about? I couldn't understand how he possibly could have interpreted this scene as redundant, and so after fighting a little bit, we struggled through, and he told me what he thought was happening, and what he thought was happening was not at all what I meant to convey, but I just hadn't written it clearly enough. And the way that he was used to the characters acting, he didn't realize that they were making progress in their, like, the way they related to each other. So I had to make that clearer because otherwise it did sound like a rehash of a previous scene that would have been redundant. And getting that outside perspective is essential because otherwise I never would have realized that people aren't going to understand what I'm going for here. Because it wasn't clear enough.
It's so hard when you know everything in your head. It's so hard when you think, I've clearly expressed this. I don't know how I can make this any more clear. And then someone's like, no, this isn't clear at all. And it's frustrating. And you want to be like, how can you be so stupid? How could you not clearly see I've written this perfectly? But you know you can't do that.
Yeah, well, you know, the worst reaction I think an author can have to bad reviews is, well, no, you're just... the readers are just dumb. They're just
you're not smart enough.
My brilliance.
You just don't get my vision.
Don't react that way.
Yeah.
It's your job to share your vision with your words.
Yeah.
Put it on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you're doing it. I mean, you know, most of us are writing books to, you know, probably entertain or enlighten other readers. You know, we want to share our views and entertain the world and provide something to people that they can you know, we want to share our experience with them, you know, to like share that with somebody and then say, no, how you felt about the thing I made is wrong.
You just can't do that.
You can't. I mean, come on. Like, people are gonna feel what they're gonna feel, and some people are gonna read your book and say, this is not, you know, my experience base does not mesh with what you're selling me.
There was a really good dinosaur comics on exactly this topic. Dinosaur comics, Ryan North. Do you guys ever read dinosaur?
That's familiar.
Comics?
No, but I'm gonna have to check it out now.
You guys don't read dinosaur comics? Come on! I'll find it.
Tell us about it.
Oh, because it was just these dinosaurs talking. It's the same panels every time, but they say different things. And so they were talking about how books aren't like static, unchanging things, but they, like, part of the reality of them is manifested when the reader reads it. And so it's like changing and malleable and can be different for everyone. And I don't remember what all it said, but anyway, it's a dinosaur comic. I'll find it for you. I'll find it for you.
No, I think you want, at first, as an author, I think you don't want that reaction. Like, you want everybody to get it. But I think if it's not malleable...
That's so sad, yeah.
Right, but if it's not malleable, you're not going to have those beautiful moments where if you do get to a point where people are, coming to book signings and things like that, and they're like, when I read this story, it really helped me get through the death of my mom, or it really helped me get through this really hard time that I was having at work, or, I was having this personal identity crisis, and I totally related to this character in the book. And you would have never imagined that a person could have gotten that out of it. Like, that was never your intention. It was like you just never intended to do what that did. And so you have to be careful. You don't want people to interpret it wrong, but you also want it to be open enough for interpretation that people can have whatever reaction to that book they need to have from that book.
Yeah. And that's something that, like, I ask myself all the time about my book when I'm writing it is like, I feel like it changes every week. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's something that it's going to get more solid as I put more time into it. But it's just like, what are you trying to say here? Like, what's the takeaway that you want people to get from this book? And it's still something that I'm kind of fleshing out. And then as I do rewrites and things like that, I get close to that goal. But it's been a really difficult target for me to nail down. Why are you making that face, Kara?
Because I found the comic and now I want to read it.
Okay. I got to figure out what my book says, and I'm getting this face like, oh, no.
No, I'm not even looking at you. I was looking at the dinosaurs.
Good.
Don't worry, no one's paying attention to you.
Great. That's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Our 4 viewers have us.
We have that many viewers?
We have 4 viewers. Yeah, we have 4 viewers.
That's a record.
So
Elon loves dinosaur comics.
But it's just like, really understanding what you're trying to say is like incredibly helpful for when you're writing a book. Like what's the takeaway? Like, where am I going with this? That's like something I ask myself all the time. If I'm writing a scene and I ask myself, well, okay, where the hell is this going? Where am I going with this? And I can't answer it. It's out. It's gonna go into like the burn pile. That I always have this. I think that for people that pre-order through Drinkshares, once I'm done with writing the book, I'm just going to take all of my drafts and all my different revisions and like my 14 Scrivener files that I have of like all the different versions of my book, and I'm going to combine them all into one PDF, and I'm going to make that available to anybody who pre-orders on Drinkshares to see like, wow. This is what
that's letting people see you naked. Like,
yeah, but it's
that
like,
idea terrifies me.
No, it's totally cool to me because I really want people to understand that like a book doesn't come out good.
Yeah,
it starts out as this like raw, brutal, hot mess that like things are so radically oh my god, things are so radically different than what they started as, and to see like I think for if anybody like reads the book and gets really into it, they'd be really interested in seeing like what are the origins of this, what characters got cut, what characters became bigger things, as it went along, and like where's the root of this, and you can like kind of like it's almost like a genealogy when you read the different drafts and you say like, oh well, like I see where like the seeds of these ideas are starting to grow.
So much of this conversation reminds me of my background with painting. I was a fine art major in school, and we did critiques constantly, and you got to feel for like, okay, this is what I was thinking when I was painting it, but like, oh man, like 9 out of 10 people got this totally other thing. So you start to develop like an awareness of how it's going to be viewed while you're painting. And the same thing works with writing. And like what you're talking about now, Joe, like reminds me of how if you could peel back the layers of a painting and see, how, oh, this was over here originally and then it got moved. I don't know, there's just a lot of really neat parallels right now.
We saw something when I was in Florida. I went to the Salvador Dali Museum, which was totally rad, and there was, I forget what painting it was because it was years ago, but there was one where you could like they did an analysis on it. It was like a person. Hold on a second. My son is talking to me. Mira, just hold on for a second, okay, buddy? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can. It's fine. So So there's a painting with a guy that's just like looking over in a field, and it's like something like farmer with crops or whatever. And then and I could be totally brutalizing this because it was been like 20 years since I've been there, but then when they did an analysis of the painting, there was stuff underneath what was painted, and it was somebody like burying somebody. And that's kind of like what you're talking about. It's just like you see like the layers and like the things that are underneath it.
Yeah, and if you like really think your painting's garbage, since art supplies are not cheap and most artists are not wealthy, you'll totally reuse that canvas and paint straight over it. But yeah, like it's kind of like when you have your old drafts from when you were a lot younger. You can go back and find something useful in there. Or maybe you can't. But you can definitely learn as you go.
When I was reading Sakurai Blue, I learned a word, and now I can't remember what it is, but it has to do with painting. It's something mento, where you paint a canvas, and then you don't like it anymore, so you paint over it like a new picture, and then the old image starts to bleed through into the new, and it creates its own type of art, and now I can't remember what it was called. I want to say it was something like pestomento or something like that, but
Pesto. That's making me hungry.
Did you have dinner yet, Joe?
Spaghetti mento. I have a few best pieces of writing advice. Well, actually, what's been occurring to me is that, like, with everything you said, Joe, about that one book, and advice on like making people feel things and stuff,
feel things. We're here to make you feel things and stuff.
You better cry.
Is that I guess I probably the advice that sticks with me, and that I notice and maybe even seek out is the stuff that I am not naturally good at, like plotting, because like making people feel things, that's all that I want to do. It's nobody needs to tell me to do that, because that's all that my scenes are about. What I need is for my plot to make sense, and for like things to actually progress. Because if I had it the way that I want it, they would like sit on couches and talk to each other. And that would be the whole book, and nothing would happen.
You should just do like a serial on like. Just release it like one at a time on Amazon or like on like Wattpad or whatever, where it's just like characters hanging out, talking at each other. That'd be fun. I would like that.
So that reminds me of what they were talking about on Story Wonk.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a Story Wonk thing. I love Story Wonk, by the way. They give if you want to talk about good advice, they give great advice. Story Wonk, Alistair, and Lonnie, they're so great. I love them.
Alistair with the lovely accent.
Yeah, I have such a podcast crush on both of them. They give great writing advice. The Journeyman Writer is these little snippets of advice that are, 5 to 8 minutes long, just an idea. And then there's the Story Wonk Daily. They have a ton of podcasts. They're like professional podcasters or something, in addition to being writers. They have a ton of podcasts, ton of good content. It's great. I don't always agree with everything that they say, but they're all about characters too. I'm really, really all about characters being the center of why how you make your story matter and make people feel.
Joe, did you talk just explode?
I'm gonna mute this for a second.
Yeah, yeah. You do mute yourself.
Go give that dog a treat.
Go get it a priest. I think he needs exercise.
No, okay. Anyway, so one of the best pieces of writing advice that I've ever gotten is make your scenes do more than one thing for your story. Like, make them be productive in more than one way. So not just character development, but like character development and plot progression. Character development and plot progression and foreshadowing, and like, I don't know, like theme. Just make your scenes work so that they're serving more than one purpose. And your scenes are more rich,
Alright, so I don't like advice, but I do read advice constantly. And sometimes I'll keep some advice for like 48 hours, and then I'm done with it. But so there's one that like I do occasionally, bring back into my mind, and that's have like each sentence lead to the next sentence, and like you're not just like here's a thought, here's another thought, like have them weave together.
But sometimes you
wait. What are you talking about?
Like slow.
It's hard to explain without giving examples. But
I think like that's good. That's like super good advice. But also it's all about like intent. It's like sometimes you want it to be. Sometimes there's a reason for it to be disjointed. Yeah. But it's like understanding why you're writing that, what the intent of the paragraph is, and what you're trying to get across is really important to how you want things to flow. Because if you're just, if you don't understand the intent, it's really gonna throw the reader off, I think.
It might be a reason why your scene gets stuck or something. If like you don't understand where you're going.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
You don't see.
That goes back to like my like where am I going with this? Is like sometimes I'll come up with an idea in the car or something and write it down, and then I'll start kind of exploring it, and then I'll get a couple like good paragraphs out of it, and then I'll be like, okay, well, that looks good. It looks good on the page, but like, why is it there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's good writing exercise, and maybe it turns into something down the road, but not everything you write ever always makes it out there.
Why it won't let me
90%, like it's like an iceberg. Like 90% doesn't make it out there.
Wyatt won't let me throw old stuff away because he's convinced that if for any reason my book ever sells, that this is going to be worth something someday. Like the unknown, like alternate versions of chapters
thrown out.
So I just have stacks of paper left out or like around.
Oh, yeah, because you write on paper first, right? Oh man.
I enjoy it.
You're going to need a storage unit at some point.
I realized that there's an interesting step in my process because I handwrite it first, but I noticed this weekend, and it's probably because I've been doing so much writing as a nano, I noticed that I mostly write dialogue when I'm handwriting. It's basically just really quick conversations between each other, and I don't use dialogue tags most of the time. I just write the conversation. And then when I go back to type it, that's when I put in a lot more description, a lot like dialogue tags if I need them. Any kind of exposition. So it's a really interesting process that I've developed in doing this. So
I think a lot of people probably do that, right? Like that's like you do one thing or just parts of your writing first, and then in your next draft you fill in the other stuff that you didn't do the first time.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I don't skip stuff in mine, but
Really?
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm like totally
That
like super
fascinates
linear.
me.
But I like thought about doing it like kind of like non-linear, but like I'm like totally like fill it all in like as you go. But then what I do is I always take like flow is really important to me, and how it reads is really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the show, but what I do is when I'm done writing something, I put it through a text-to-speech engine, and then I have it read it back to me, and I listen to it in the car. And
that's a really good idea.
I'll listen to chapters, like the first chapter I listened to like 40 times in the car. It was just like over and over and over again. I listened to it, and I think, okay, well that doesn't sound quite right. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll sit down at the table or the desk or wherever I am, and I'll just listen to the system read the book back to me, and you can do this with text-to-speech. You could read it yourself and do it. I just do it through text-to-speech because it's faster than recording it myself, and hearing it from somebody else or hearing it from yourself really helps you pick up on things. And I'll listen to the entire chapter, and then I'll have a notebook, and I'll just be like, okay, well, like this doesn't seem right, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't seem right, and I'll end up with like 3 pages of notes on things that don't seem right, and then I'll just keep like iterating over that process until I don't take any more notes, and then I'll go through section by section and like listen to this section and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. It's kind of a time-consuming process, but
that's why your book is so long to write.
It's why Ageless came out today, and my book has not been submitted yet. But so I'm the last Sword and Laser book from the first contest that is like going to come out, and mine will be like way after the rest of the books. Like if you're looking to complete the set, you're going to be waiting a while. But and my dog is barking off, so you guys talk, and I'm going to mute this microphone.
I can say that I've listened to part of Joe's book. With a British woman's voice reading it, the text-to-speech thing, and it was really cool. And I highly recommend either having somebody else read your book to you or reading it to yourself.
I'm gonna have to figure out what app he used for that, because the voice to what was it, text-to-speak one I had a really disjointed kind of Siri. Like mechanical robot voice.
Yeah, it can be really bad. You should ask
so
about it.
I would have to find the one that Joe's using, because I think if I used the one I had, it would not work in the way Joe's saying it would, because it would still sound very disjointed, and things I probably wrote fine, the way she would say them would sound strange.
I wonder if it's just the British option.
Yeah, are you talking about the text-to-speech?
Yeah.
So I'm using something called ReadSpeaker. And you're not supposed to distribute to, like, the licensing is like when you do it, you're not supposed to distribute it to people. Like, it's supposed to be like a personal, like, text-to-speech thing. But it's super useful for, like, listening to it on your own. I'll put a note in so that I can share it with people. Because I recommend it, and there's different voice options. There's, different dialects. So I use a female British voice because it seems to be the most natural. There's different voices. The package, I don't know how the packages work. The package that I have only has so many voices in it, the American English voice just sounded too robotic and didn't sound right. So then I went with the English one because it just kind of flowed better.
I've noticed for just even regular Siri, if you use the British voice, she pronounces things way better than the American version. Yeah, we do that just for driving around, and she knows how to pronounce all the different street names and town names, and the American Siri cannot handle it. It's sad.
Yeah. So that works for me. I think it's just like it's really helpful to hear somebody else read your stuff and see if it like makes sense,
It's funny that you should mention that, because I was actually kind of thinking about recording a couple chapters of my story first and listening to it, because I really like how Paul puts out little like previews of his chapters for Ageless, and he's read them. So, but I didn't know if that would just be weird and me falling into the narcissistic love I'm developing for the sound of my own voice now that I've started doing these shows.
You're a good presenter, and you have a good radio voice, I guess.
Oh, thank you.
So it's good, yeah.
So I guess I can do that now. Thanks for giving me permission to do that.
I'm not giving you any permission to do anything. You got it.
I advise you to
do that. You advise me to do that.
I'm not about I'm not about telling people how to live their life. And Paul is listening to the show right now, so shout out to Paul Inman.
Yay!
And congratulations on the release of the digital version of your book. And I hope when the print version comes out, I hope everybody loves it and you have a great time and you have continued success through the years with your book.
Yes. And Motor City Chronicles needs to come out soon.
Yeah, where's that at? I'm going to look on that. I'm going to stall for time while I go to Inkshares and I look at where that's at.
While you're stalling for time, I'm going to talk about two of the important pieces of advice that I have received. One of them I am going to count as the thing I got from Christopher Moore, because basically joking about giving myself permission, that's pretty much what we were talking about on Twitter, was I basically need someone to give me permission that it's okay to do what I want. Like, it's really hard for me to break through things that I know I should do because it's good for my story, but it's not what you're supposed to do. And so I just basically need someone who comes from that perspective to say, yeah, it's okay, it's going to work. And if it doesn't, someone's going to say something about it. But so what? Shut up. Like, move on. I'm like, okay,
so you
gonna do
need
that.
helpful advice like that.
Yeah.
That's helpful advice for you.
Yeah, it was, and I really enjoyed that. That was nice. And for it to come from my hero, that was really awesome, too. Just the fact that he took the time to respond to me on Twitter blew my mind. It was like the day that, what's her name? I can't even think of it. The chick that plays Drusilla on Buffy followed me on Twitter.
Name?
Yes, Juliet Landau. Totally blanked on that for a second. But she followed me on Twitter, and I lost my mind.
That's awesome.
But another really cool bit of advice, I actually watched it on a TED Talk, and it was one of the creators from Pixar talking about the mechanics of story building, and he talked a lot about how they had built their stories, starting with these really basic, simple concepts with Pixar, and it was like, I think you might have seen it on Pinterest or something. It was basically like, what if blank had feelings? Like, what if fish had feelings? You know, what if robots had feelings? What if toys had feelings? And so, like, that's how they created this entire plethora of ideas they've had coming out for the last, 10, 15 years, something like that. I don't know. When did Toy Story come out? In the 90s, right?
Yeah, that was a
So it all started with, they sat down one day and just made a list of what if blank had feelings. And the end of that was, what if feelings had feelings? And that's where that last one came out.
Inside Out, yeah.
Yeah.
Pixar has a lot of really good storytelling advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'll find the TED Talk, and Joe can put it up in the links for this video. But one of my favorite pieces of advice, like the whole video, the whole TED Talk is just awesome. It's just watch it. My favorite piece of advice was that the reader wants to do the math. They want 2 + 2, but don't give them 4.
Right.
And that just really resonated with me. I don't know why it did, but that made a lot of sense. Like, you give them the equation, but they have to solve it themselves. You can't give them 4. I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And so I've always kind of held on to that. And I try to make things as apparent as possible without saying, here you go.
Yeah, my first drafts are always really, like, they're way too explainy. Explain everything, and part of it I think is so that I don't forget when I read through it again what I was trying to go for, but then the next time through I can make it better and more subtle, because nothing is subtle in my first draft. It's so extreme. Look who's here!
Brenna just got off of work.
Yay!
It's funny you should say that, Kara, because going from Moore's last book that he wrote to his first book, after having read so many books that he wrote, going back to his very first book, it's almost painful. Like, I think it's only because I'm a writer that I know, and I'm just like, oh no, don't know.
Well, you know, everybody does that though.
Oh, and I'm going to be the same
First book is your best book.
I know that my book's going to be true compared to my 10th book. But, like, Wyatt asked me last night, he's like, oh, so what do you think of this book? And I was like, it's definitely his first book. Like, that's what I had to say about it. Because one of my favorite things about the way he tells his story is he is brilliant in the way that he releases information, especially because he does so much with history, and he does a lot of time jumping, but he does it in a way that makes perfect sense. It's perfectly timed, and I don't feel like anything is out of sync. I feel like everything that is a surprise or backstory is delivered at just the right time. And within the first 3 chapters of his first book, he's already, like, a full chapter exposition of backstory. And I'm just like, yay, that's interesting. Not what I would have done, but okay, good for you. But it's his first book, you know. So. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
And one of the dogs, too, right?
So I'm going to give Brenda's going to take my spot for a second.
All right, so the 5-minute Brenda segment. What happened today?
Nothing much.
Brenda, what's the best writing advice you've ever received?
What's the best what?
Writing advice you've ever received, or the best advice you've ever given Joe. You could tell us the best advice.
Or maybe we should ask her what her super secret skill or guilty pleasure is.
Yeah, ask that too. That's a good
one. My super secret skill.
Or guilty pleasure.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Ooh.
See, this is a hard question, you guys.
Yeah.
If you don't have one prepared.
I have, well, I guess I have a superpower that's dyslexia, but that's not really, you know. I feel like it's a superpower because I can read people really well. So, yeah. That's, yeah.
So is that something that goes... So wait a minute.
I take that back.
No, I'm curious. Is that a skill that actually goes along with dyslexia? Is being able to have, like, good interpersonal and, like, skills for reading people?
I didn't think so until Joe explained it to me, and then I was like, yeah.
Okay, Joe's gonna have to explain that to me. Because I...
Dyslexia. Okay.
Humble brag here. I'm really good at that. And I think it's interesting because we both are dyslexic and we both have that skill. So I wonder if it is a correlation.
And we're both
okay, what was the situation? I just got back. I was giving my kid hot dogs.
Brenda was talking about how her super secret skill or her superpower was dyslexia because she can read people. And she said that you explained that to her. So I'm curious if you know of a link between that. Because I'm really good at that too, and I'm dyslexic.
I don't know any link. I don't know any, like, I'm not a psychologist or whatever, but I know but
my eyes twitching.
I don't think
That means you're extra tired.
for Brenda. I think it's like so I'm going through a process of
Miro, hold on, baby.
Miro, just a minute. Miro,
He wants mama.
hold on a second. Okay.
I have superpowers.
Brenda's gonna drop out.
Brenda's super mom. That's her skill.
She'll be back. But
Kendra has that skill too.
I told Miro he
super
could
mom.
lay on the couch if he was quiet, and he decided that was not what he wanted to do. What is he doing?
Look, Jay, let me eat hot dogs on the couch.
Busted.
No, I just admitted to that. I mean, that's not like a secret.
It would have been funnier if they were vegetarians.
You just want to brag.
Well, they're vegetarian hot dogs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I gave him a pack of vegetarian hot dogs. I was told to sit on the couch and watch YouTube. So that's my great parenting advice for the night. But I think that, like, so for anybody who doesn't know, about 3 weeks ago I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm learning a lot about that, and a lot of it. As I'm meeting with these therapists today, I met with the doctor that distributes the actual medicine part. So I'm going through that process. Almost every week, I meet with a therapist to work on the, like, behavioral and, like, habitual kind of things.
Oh, my client smelled like cat pee today, and it's like my eyes hurt so bad. I'm trying to keep it together.
This is recorded on the internet.
It's like I blow dried their hair, and it's like,
Just everything that just happened right there. I loved it. Like, Joe is being very serious and Brenda's just like, blah.
Because you know when you scratch something, then all of a sudden, like, it's like, yeah, I'm here, stage 10. I'm sorry.
We got a question. We have a question in the chat. To give advice on tropes too, so we should think about that. And near the end of the show, we should when we start fielding questions. I just don't want to miss that. Anyway, going back to Brenda's dyslexia, I think that when you have some sort of limitation, especially if it's not diagnosed right away, you build up some sort of defense mechanism or some sort of coping mechanism to work with it. And with Brenda, with dyslexia, there's no medication you can take to fix dyslexia. It's like you have dyslexia, and that's life. And with that, you have you build up other ways. It's like how when you have brain damage and your brain rewires itself. I have a friend that had brain damage one time, and when you have a traumatic brain injury. Yeah. Our son is very active right now, so he's jazzing out over there. When you have a traumatic brain injury, your brain rewires itself to kind of circumvent the areas that aren't functioning properly. And I think not on like a wiring level, but on a kind of like behavioral level, the brain works like that when you have some sort of limitation with ADHD or dyslexia or anything like that. when you're deficient in one area, it feels like, and I'm not a medical guy, I don't have any proof either on this. This is all just observation, but it feels like you end up growing strengths because of something is something is not something is missing. So with Brenda, she's super observant because she needs to pick up on those cues because that's how she copes with the other side of it.
That's really interesting, and I would like to explore that because, like I said, I see a lot of those characteristics. I share that because I like to think that I'm pretty observant, and I like to think that I can read people pretty well. Especially like it's really helpful being a teacher when you know that something's wrong with your student, and they won't really tell you what's up, but you know something's wrong because they're just a little off that day.
Yeah, you just know it.
Yeah, you know something's off, and so I think that's really interesting.
Otherwise, I have quick.
I think it makes sense. I mean, Daredevil has really good.
I was thinking the same thing, but I wasn't going to say it. I was thinking the same exact thing.
I said Daredevil. He's got really good hearing. He's blind.
He does have really good hearing. Hearing plus.
Compensates, you know. Of course, he got doused in some chemical too, didn't he? He got doused in a chemical that
Like Brenda got doused in cat pee today.
Yeah. You probably have a cat pee power now.
Yeah.
Dude, maybe you're a Catwoman now. You should go out and get a cat suit and fight crime.
I don't ever fucking do that.
Again, that's what third at the bottom of the night.
The top thing we're put there, Catwoman suit.
Kara, you know what I think? I think we should do? I think Kara should come up, I think Brenda should come up with an idea for the Princess Noir stories.
Oh yeah, because you have good ideas. You give Joe lots of ideas. So we're doing a short story anthology called Princess Noir.
Okay, Princess Noir.
Noir. So it's like
it's dark
and tragic.
Oh, awesome. Okay, got that.
Think Sin City. I would
with tragic endings.
Would Sin City be a good example?
Endings. Yeah, that's not a great example. I mean, there's lots of good noir out there.
You ever listen to Guy Noir? Guy Noir.
Oh yeah, that's a Prairie Home Companion thing.
It is.
Yeah, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So what's coming up?
So anyway, you should come up with an idea for it, for a short story.
For Princess Noir?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Okay, so I need a little bit more information though.
Ooh, Becky, do you have your one sentence that I really loved?
Let me pull it up. Actually, I want to read the whole thing because I loved it so much. I gotta pull it up. It's only like a short paragraph, so.
But yeah, the intro paragraph.
Do it.
Are you already writing yours?
I just had inspiration for like one paragraph. That's it. I promise. It's okay because I wanted to do The Little Mermaid. This is what I came up with. This was like 5 minutes after Women Slaying Sci-Fi ended. That I was just really amped up on this. So I imagined that kind of talking about we were joking about with the princesses all being part of like private investigators, like princess investigations. This is what I came up with. She was a simple woman who didn't want much, just a good stiff drink and a pair of fishnet stockings that wouldn't snag. Ironic, she'd given up everything just for a pair of these damn legs. Now she spent all her money on things just to cover them up. But her fishnets reminded her of the sea and how dangerous life was on land. How easy it was to get trapped there in a net, getting tangled up in all that darkness and despair she saw when she walked those streets. Still able to reach a hand through to freedom on the other side, but knowing once caught, you would never escape.
I like that.
That's solid, man.
Pretty good.
That's it. That's
good.
Are you okay?
Did Joe just get chills?
This guy like really like it's so back and like bounce the chairs and stuff.
I ate an entire bottle of kombucha. The kombucha alcohol.
There's a lot going on with Jack today.
So the new rule is Joe has to have 3 beers or one of those kombucha things.
You should smell my eyeball.
And that's the story of how Brenda and Joe got pink eye.
Oh man.
So anybody who is watching this and hasn't followed the Princess Noir book, they should
go follow that.
Check it out, follow it, because it is actually like an idea,
An official idea on Drinkshares.
Kara, have you guys figured out who you're gonna do yet? Have you guys decided your princesses yet?
Mine is gonna be original. I'm not using an existing princess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no really rules. You can pick. Like,
right now we have very few boundaries.
Yeah,
it's
just like
Noir, the only boundaries
princess / Noir.
So I guess mine doesn't necessarily have.
Mine is gonna be a murder mystery sort of thing. I like murders.
You like murders?
Beyond that, I have nothing. Nothing at all. And I do not write short stories, so this is going to be quite a challenge.
Are we going to put a word limit on it?
Somebody needs to give me a word limit, yeah. Because we're not writing full books. You can write a book on it.
You do like a cap of like. Well, it depends on how many writers you have.
250 top.
It depends on how many writers you have and how much you want to fill.
Right now we have 3. You write 1 4.
So I mean, like, if you want to do like, what do you want the end book size to be? Because if you do,
I don't know.
You could do if you have 4, you could do 20,000. So they could be like little novellas. If you
have,
I think that'd be cool to get 2 or 3 more people.
Christine, I
like
vote Christine.
What? Wait, I wasn't paying attention.
I said I vote to. No, she's doing it.
Noir.
Christine does what I tell her.
You're a bully.
Yeah, just take as many like writers as you have and take the final word count.
Well, so it's Kara, R.H. Webster, myself, possibly Joe if we strong arm it into it. Christine, when I tell her.
Elena Mae Darcy.
Elena Mae Darcy. Okay.
Wait, are you telling me to do a Princess Noir?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you to do.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually like really honored.
See, she does what I tell her.
I do what everyone tells me.
She's like the perfect
Christine. You are a strong, independent woman.
That's true.
You don't need no Becky.
Oh,
that's not true. Hey, remember, Team Bechstein. Hashtag Team Bechstein.
Each other's backs.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys
secret
want
conversations.
Okay. If you guys want me to be in the Princess Noir, I feel really honored by that.
But only
my project.
Come up with an idea for you.
Brenda comes up with the idea and then I write it.
Yeah, you can be like.
That's how it works.
JB.
That's how it works.
I wrote this book too.
The book that's coming after this one, she came up with the idea for. So like, she is kind of like the idea generator.
There's another book.
I have 3 books. They're all a sort for my dreams. I have really strange dreams, so I always tell him. So then he puts
and then I put them on Drinkshares.
Yeah.
And get followers.
So all those things are on
Drinkshares
are my dreams. Like the squirrel one, and then the 3.
That one.
Yeah,
that sounds really fun.
One of Brenda's dreams is if you go into Drinkshares and you search based on, if you go into the search and then you filter by ideas, I have in the top like 4, 2 of my ideas are in there, and one of them is one that I just came up with on the fly, and one of them is the book about squirrels that Brenda came
I have a question.
Is this? Oh, so go ahead, Christine.
Okay. So I have ideas too. Should I put them on Drinkshares?
Yes, totally.
I have 2 ideas up on Drinkshares.
Every single time I'm like, I'd love to see like who has the most ideas on Drinkshares, because like anytime I come up with an idea, it's going on Drinkshares, and like I just dump it on there because there's no risk. There's no reason not to.
True.
Like, you don't have to write the book.
Well, it's distracting.
Yeah, well that's the problem. That's why I haven't done it.
If you want to
finish
the book, you need to not be coming up with a million new ideas every.
You don't have to be actively doing anything with it, though.
Yeah, because then I'll get like all crazy about checking to see who followed it. And
yeah.
It
doesn't bother me that much, you know.
Yeah, I don't even get to the point where I come up with new ideas.
Send an email and send it to me, and I'll check it.
I had one idea actually. I had one idea.
What is it?
That I think could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a retelling of Lady and the Tramp, except with humans instead of dogs, and in outer space. And so it's going to be sci-fi, and it'll be with like.
Can they be eating the space ice cream instead of spaghetti?
Space station.
You could have a whole scene with them. Yeah,
I don't know.
Like
it could go
floating in 0G with the spaghetti and like coming together as they like float together.
That's not where my brain went, but sure.
Oh, where'd your brain go?
Oh, just more like, well, because sometimes I get bored with reading my kids these storybooks, because sometimes I've read them like 50 times, and I need a new story. So sometimes I'll make up completely new words for the same pictures, you know? So, so that's where this came from, because I like to
I came up with
characters.
I came up with an idea in the car today, and I didn't put it on Drinkshares yet, but I'm going to throw it at you guys. You tell me what's going on with it.
But isn't the slides on YouTube?
Well, I don't care. If someone else can take it. Like, I've already got like 9 ideas on there. If somebody takes it and writes it, good for them, then I'll read it. Like, the only reason why I write books...
Joe's going to forget it was his idea anyway, so...
The only reason why I write books is because nobody else write them. If somebody else could write the book for me and I could just read it...
If people would just do their damn job, Joe wouldn't have to fucking do everything.
No, God. Like,
we do more clicks on the show.
That's the whole thing. Like, if somebody else, like, I wouldn't write books if somebody else just wrote the books that I wanted to read. But like, that's the thing. Like, I want to read the book that I'm writing, so I'm gonna write it.
Selfish.
So I had this idea. I was listening to something in the car, so with like Christianity and stuff, you know, they, like we grew up believing that at some point everything kind of comes together and Earth ends, you know, like the kingdom comes to Earth, and
Thy kingdom come?
Yeah, God says like we're done with this Earth thing. Let's like mix it all together and like unify heaven or whatever, you know, whatever's going on. I didn't study a lot when I was.
I'm trying to think of like, is that
school.
how it went?
Yeah, it's totally like end times.
I have no idea. I've never read the Bible, so for all I know, this could be
so
exactly what it says.
Eventually, everything comes to an end, and heaven happens. So so I thought, what if you wrote a science fiction story where kingdom come, it's like comes to Earth.
You mean New Testament?
Like
is that what New Testament is? Like after everything?
The end, like it's end times, you know, and like it's end times on Earth, but it didn't happen on all the other planets. Like humanity has spread out across the galaxy, and God only came to Earth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And I was like, oh man, that's a good idea. But like I have to actually finish the book that is in production right now. So that's what I'm focusing on.
You know, my mom used to scare me. Like when I was younger, I thought it was like really in the Bible. I'm not sure if it is, but my mom's a little crazy. She said that that we are not the only people, because in the Bible, Jesus had to walk away and go visit other people. But I don't know, but he visited his other people, and then he came back to us. Yeah, that's what my mom is Southern. That's what she's talking about, my people. So yeah. So no, it could be like he doesn't, like he's tighter with the aliens, you know, like.
Well,
I just made it sci-fi.
I just thought it'd be weird. It'd be weird, like if you colonize Mars.
I think maybe Mormons believe that. I think that might be Mormon.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, my mom was Mormon sometimes.
Yes.
She was a sister wife.
Yes. So
that's very telling.
Yeah. She scared me a lot with certain things, so I don't know what's the truth. Like,
I know there's two other types of beings that were written about in text, and one was the jinn, which you find in the Quran.
Yeah.
And the Quran states that there were 3 types of beings made. There were the angels made from light. Yep, angels were made from light, and they had no free will, and they were servants to God. Jinn were given how was it? It's like they were given the power of the Creator, or they were given magical abilities or something, and that's why they can like grant wishes and transform and things like that. But they were made of fire, and I'm not sure if they were given free will or not either. And then humans were, what's that? Yeah, genies basically.
Oh, I thought you said jinn. I was like, duh.
No, not the kind
that sounds exactly what that.
And then humans were made from clay and given free will. Mm-hmm. And so God loved humans the best, and the angels revolted because they were mad about humans getting free will, and the jinn chose the wrong side or something. I don't remember exactly, but the jinn get involved somehow, and that's why they get cast down to Earth. But God makes a promise, like he makes a deal with them and says that if you can redeem yourself by Judgment Day, you can come back to heaven. So I know that's in like Middle Eastern tradition stuff, but there's also a being.
I've never heard of that actually.
Yeah, no, that's right.
It's in the Quran. But there's also beings called like the Nephilim or something like that.
What's it called?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nephilim.
I'm closer to
Yeah.
Tell me more.
And weren't they? They were like giants or something, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think the Nephilim were
Is that how you say it?
beings. I don't know if we know what they were.
What was
but
the- what was
definitely
the
talked about in
question?
the Bible.
What was the question?
There's giants, maybe angels.
The angels were giants?
Maybe a version of angels.
Is anybody in the chat that's listening to right now can answer these questions?
Well, Chris knows how to spell them, but that doesn't help.
There's one
Anybody from the
Christian
chat can
right
help
That
us
guy
out.
knows.
These were
I
books
know how
that
to
I was
spell
allowed to read. It was
Nephilim?
That's about it.
Christopher says Nephilim in the chat.
Yeah, that looks right.
Well,
The spelling
he
of that looks right.
that is how you spell it.
Yeah. And
Go
Jin
ahead.
is Jinn.
The only way I know Nephilim is from a video game that I play. So
There's also
I was trying to think of like some Norwegian death metal band. I'm like, I think I've heard that word before.
yeah, they play Blood Slaughter. Their favorite. It's
Made
their
it with
best
humans.
song.
Oh yeah,
Blood.
okay, Christopher knows. Yeah, that's what it was.
there we go.
So they're made it with
Babies
humans.
of angelic beings plus humans.
Cool. You know, and thinking about it now with the Book of Mormon and Jesus leaving to go visit people, I wonder if that's when he, like, because when he was resurrected, I think, he went to go
that's
visit.
it, yeah.
And then he ended up in the Americas, and that's how he met, like, the Native Americans that were the lost tribe of Israel or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, she told me that like that was aliens, so we're not alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mormons believe that before Jesus ascended to heaven, he came and visited the Native Americans.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense because that's.
A strange tangent we're on, you guys.
Yeah, I don't know how we.
This is when the show gets the best. This is when the show gets the best. So let's get those
But
tears
none of
in
us are like
the-
certain about the information we're sharing, which makes me nervous.
We're just talking crap.
See the thing.
We're
the
just
best
talking
thing-
about being
What's the
proud
segue,
and scared,
though?
whatever.
The best thing about
You
this
know,
show.
the like Christ symbol. See, look, segue is a trope. That's a trope, and somebody asked
That
us.
is a trope.
Oh, yes, let's go back
Someone
to
asked
tropes.
about tropes.
Yeah.
Okay,
trope.
question
Wait,
to
so-
whoever asked about the tropes. Are there specific tropes you're worried about avoiding?
Okay.
Superb 25.
Yeah. He said, any advice on tropes? I'm getting kind of neurotic and worried about using/avoiding them, especially since I'm writing sci-fi. It's driving me nuts. Thanks.
I don't even know what that is.
Like a trope is like
Don't
something that,
worry.
like,
Don't worry.
a trope is something that like
Always
reoccurs over and
anyways.
over again. So like something that is like that
Found
you
in lots
see
of
in
stories.
fiction. Yeah, you find it in lots of stories. And tropes aren't inherently bad, but if you like if you're not aware of them, you can kind of like it's like kind of like a retread.
Oh, okay.
Like the
Yeah.
superhero orphan, I think, is a trope. Like that seems like a trope to me.
What is the trope?
There are
What-
a lot of tropes.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of ones off the top of my head.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Or
Have
like-
you,
Superhero
is it
orphan.
trope.com?
They're the only ones
There's
that
some
have
website
anger.
that
TV
has
Yeah.
all the tropes, and it's amazing.
TVtropes.com. It's amazing.
Yes, that's
So
the one.
fun to just
Like-
click and click because they
It is so
give
much fun.
examples. They give examples from different
Yeah.
books, movies, TV shows, comics
The biggest-
of each of these tropes.
And then there's like endless tropes,
Mhm.
pages and pages.
And the Storywonk Daily has 5 different podcasts where they go through the members of the 5-man band, which is a trope, a team, and with 5 characters: the leader or the hero, the lancer, the big guy,
The brain.
chick,
The
the
chick.
brain,
The chick.
and the
Oh, I'm
yeah,
just
which
naming tropes.
we were talking about before, like because there are no boundaries on whether the chick is female or not. Like anybody could be
That's
this
just
role in the
the
group.
sensitive type, right? It's the sensitive one that thinks
No,
it's because I
the
could see that.
It's the heart of the team.
The heart.
One-
Okay.
The heart, the emotional one, the heart of the team.
One of the
The one that is
like
innocent.
one of the tropes that you see everywhere, and it's just like kind of like a core like story writing.
Oh, we're a trope
principle.
right now.
But
I
one of, the,
discounted.
one of the tropes that are like used everywhere, and it's like I mean, when we're talking about the YA, and then this ties back both to the YA stuff and the talk about religion, is like the one. Like the one is like the
The
ultimate trope.
chosen one.
The one savior. Like you see like the savior figure. And that also ties back to the Harry Potter stuff. There's always the one prophesized person that it's like it is like you are the everyman. You are the person that is going to like save all of us from this ultimate evil, and it's like
there should be a book wrote about like the brother or sister of the one.
Actually, there's a book.
Yeah.
I hate to bring up Christopher Moore again, but there is a story about like his brother, like Jesus' brother or his best friend. And it's written from the perspective.
Oh yeah, that was such a good
His best
book.
friend Biff.
Yes, Biff.
Yes, was that
I think
it?
it's called
it was called Lamb.
Yep.
Lamb.
Yeah,
Lamb.
yeah.
That was a really good book.
I'm gonna go put that on my Goodreads list.
Yeah, and it ended shockingly.
To read that.
Not like I'm so shocked, but it was.
Don't
really
tell me because
good.
I haven't read that one yet.
I forget.
Good.
See, it gets fun when you're aware of the trope, and then you can like subvert the trope.
Exactly. You need to be
That's
aware.
why you need to know your tropes so that
Well,
you.
Kara, I think your book is a perfect example of that because talking specifically about the one, yours is the perfect counterpoint to that. You know, your story is a prophecy of where she's going to end the world to save it. So,
Well, I am trying to do a
It's
like I said in my
trope
promo
made
video,
up
like
to
a
people
feminist
who are not
angle,
for
feminist
authors.
commentary on the hero's journey, which is all about the one. You know, so I am trying to explore this issue in my book, and I don't want to give away how it all ends, but she is prophesied to fail, and there's this big long prophecy in episode 7 that you guys get to dive into. So yeah, I'm trying to do something creative with it.
I think there's a lot of ways that you can do that, though. Something that comes to mind that I thought was really fascinating. The kids, I shouldn't say kids because they're adults, but the students that are now like semi-celebrities that did the Harry Potter musical on YouTube through Michigan University or whatever. But they did 3. They did the Harry Potter musical, they did a sequel to it, and then there was the one that they wrote as the third year, like what the third year would have been if everybody would come back to Hogwarts. But they do a lot of that stuff. They take the tropes from these stories and they mix it all up. But they did a really great one on Aladdin, and it was called Twisted. And they did the entire story from the perspective of Jafar, where Aladdin was a huge dick. And it was hysterical. It was great. And they worked in other mythology from the Middle East, like Scheherazade was married to, let's see, he's married to Jafar, and then she ends up dying in the story, and that's why Jafar ends up turning all evil, because the one love that he had, he lost. And so I think by taking those tropes and either twisting them, kind of like Kara with what you're doing, or looking at them from another perspective. You can take a tired old trope, but if you write it from the antagonist view or an outsider perspective that you wouldn't expect, I think it puts a whole fresh spin on that. And that's ultimately what you have to do with tropes, is you have to find a way of taking these stories that we know people love. People will read these stories. That's why going back to having 13 versions of vampires and werewolves fighting each other over a pretty girl, or a very plain girl who's awkward and nobody understands why they love her. But, yeah, I'm not talking about a specific book or anything in there. But understanding why these stories keep popping up, but finding new and fresh ways to tell those stories that everyone loves.
Yeah, and I think it boils down to it.
Just like that.
Be aware. Like they're something that's available in your tool set as a writer. You can choose to use them or not, but if you choose to use them, be aware of how you're using it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it harkens back to what Joe was saying, too, because you want your story to hit at an emotional level. And we know that there are specific tropes that hit at those levels, and that's why people seek out those stories. So it's important that you understand, like you said, Christine, why you're using it and what your point is. And if you don't want to tell the same tired old story, how can you tell that story from a different perspective to achieve that emotional experience the reader wants from that story, but without telling the same story 10,000 times.
You doing okay,
buddy? Brenda had thoughts about tropes, and she said, "Don't worry about tropes."
Just
yeah, anything that gets you in your head too much, like
don't let it bother you too
tell it
much.
to go away. You need to keep writing.
We had kind of like a sidebar. We like muted the mics and we were talking about it, and yeah, I mean, she as like a person that like is not writing, like she had never heard of tropes, and like to her as being like she is like the every person to the show, and
we love her for it.
And for her, she said like she doesn't care, like she doesn't even care about like tropes, like whatever, like is the story good, you know, that's what she's concerned about, you know, like from a like. Yeah, the critics are gonna like be aware of this stuff, and the writers are gonna be aware of this stuff, and they're gonna say like, "Oh, this is like the one trope, or this is this trope, or this is that trope." But to the person that's just
the average reader.
The average reader that's just reading the story to be entertained or to enjoy it.
This is the first time I've ever heard that word before.
She's never heard of tropes before, and she doesn't really care. So if you're like, as a writer,
because there's got to be a storyline structure and base anyway, so it's always going to start with 5 people, 6 people, 2, whatever. It's always going to be. Stories have been told over and over, nonstop. So there's there's nothing new.
There are no new stories.
So, and everything sells. Like, how many Babe movies are there about the stupid pig?
Airbud.
Someone will eat that shit and love it and be like, more, please.
Miro and I were watching. I don't remember what it was. It was like it was like an Airbud movie about superpowers and like some other shit happening and like their power rings and like kind of stuff. Like, and Miro loved it. It was the best thing ever. So like. Yeah, like people are always going to pick up that stuff. That's something that we talked about earlier. We were just talking about like originality versus like, following trends and things like that. But if you're hung up about tropes, you know, it's good to be.
Then kill somebody. Kill a character.
Kill that trope.
There's 5 people, make it 4. You got this.
Brenda's writing advice.
I like put on a head.
It's pretty good advice.
When in doubt, kill someone.
Just kill.
Well, on that note from Brenda, I think we might need to start winding this up because we're running long on time.
Okay. We need to do our shout out.
Yes, that's what I was leading up to.
Okay.
You guys go. It was good to see you guys.
We should take some.
I guess I'm done.
Oh, sorry. You want it back?
No.
Sorry, I thought you were handing it to me.
So, Christine, who is our special shout out to?
Our special shout out is to our 100th Twitter follower, Brian Guthrie, who's the author of Rise, and he has a currently funding book too, right?
Yes. After Man, yes, which I did not look up. And also, I wanted to. Okay, you guys talk about Brian. I'm getting my ADHD is popping off so hard. And I saw a different tab, and I want to talk about it. So you guys talk for a second. Brian, hey, go if you like. Go check out Brian's book. Just whatever. Listen, this is how my brain works. You guys got to deal with it. If you go check out Brian's book, he has a book that's currently out. You can pick it up right now. There was some chatter in the chat earlier. I don't know if the book is out for download or not. But it may be available for download, or it's coming out soon for download. Something is happening with it.
Which book?
Rise.
Oh.
I thought I heard something in the chat that said that it was available for download now, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. So,
well, Ageless is, but I don't know how.
Ageless is, but I thought I saw something in Slack that said that it was available.
I don't know.
But I don't know if that's true or not because I was trying not to look at Slack today. Yeah, check out his work. Check out Go on Drinkshares. Check it out. He's our 100th follower, so he deserves a look. And if it's up your alley, I recommend pre-ordering it. Afterman is in the current contest that is running right now, which I'm going to pull up as we speak. To anybody who's listening, which I think that everybody who's probably listening is already aware of Drinkshares, but if you have a book that is out right now, or you catch this up in the next couple of weeks, there's a current contest going on. It's the Geek and Sundry Hard Science Contest. If you have a book that is hard science fiction is science fiction that has a basis in actual kind of science fact.
Like The Martian.
What's that?
Like The Martian.
Right, yeah. Something that's kind of based on science fact that can be, it's still speculative, but it's based on reality.
There's some serious science.
Right, there's real science behind it. There's a contest going on right now, and a lot of us who are on here have been through the contest process. I went through the original Sword and Laser contest. If you have, yeah, and a one, and she's always reminding me that I want it. But if you have a book that's hard science fiction, if you've been sitting on it and you want to be like really stressed out for the next 2 months, submit your book to this contest.
Just love being stressed out.
If you're just crazy about being stressed and you don't want to think about anything else for the next 2 months, until May 16th, if you just all you want to do is think about selling books and telling strangers about your book, I recommend you check it out. There's 22 submissions right now, which means that you've got a 1 in, I'm not going to do the math, I'm going to say 1 in 22 because the top 3 win, but I don't want to do the math to figure out what the chances are.
There's some hard science.
You can just say 3 in 22.
Yeah, you've got a 3 in 22 chance to win this contest. So if you've got a bunch of people that you like that want to give you some money for your book and you want to become a full published author at Inkshares, I recommend you enter that with your hard science fiction. Don't enter it with anything that's not hard sci-fi because that happens sometimes, and just don't be a jerk.
Yeah, wait for the right genre if you don't have a hard science book.
Just wait, because there's a ton of
There's a bunch of contests coming up.
There's a bunch of contests coming, and I think the next one may be fantasy. They don't tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, we don't know.
But we know that Geek and Sundry and Nerdist are running contests right now.
I think a horror one is coming up.
So I've heard rumors that there's a horror one.
My spidey senses are telling me.
I've heard rumors that there's a horror one and a comedy one.
Was it in Jeremy's AMA or somewhere? Somebody said that like each contest would kind of relate with the previous one, like like if you saw them all listed together, they would make sense in a sequence.
I don't recall that, but I didn't go through that whole AMA. I just know that like at one point they mentioned that there might be a comedy one, and they mentioned there might be they wanted to play on.
That wasn't about this.
That wasn't about the contest.
That wasn't about these contests.
Okay.
That's about
Maybe that's okay.
Future contests.
Future contests, and then I remember in the first Nerdist contest there was kind of like a large like horror influence to it, and I know at some point they wanted to capitalize on that, because it kind of like gets in with the sci-fi stuff. So I recommend checking that out if you have a book. And I want to do a shout out to Paul Inman, whose book is available for download right now. But he also has another book that Becky mentioned, and Motor City Chronicles, which is currently funding right now. It only has 32 days left. And it needs your support if it's going to hit its quill goal, because right now it has 43 pre-orders.
You can buy one for me.
So I already pre-ordered it. So it's only to pre-order, and I said I already pre-ordered it. But if you, I recommend you check it out, Motor City Chronicles on Inkshares, and
that has a really cool trailer too.
Yeah, it's got a really good trailer, and it needs your help to get to the quill goal. So I recommend you check that out. And also another book from our co-podcast over at Right Brain. So Paul and Jeff do the Right Brain podcast, which is also an Inkshares podcast. JF has a book, God in the Shed, which he's trying to currently get to the full funding.
My syndicate just backed that book today.
Yeah, and I am going to check the totals on that, but he's really pulling to hit the 750. He's at 566 of 750 right now. 10 days left. If you like Cthulhu, if that's the right way to pronounce it, or did I say it right?
I think so. Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. Yeah. Okay.
That's how I've always heard it pronounced.
If you love the old gods.
How have you heard it pronounced?
Ye old gods.
If you love ye old gods, and you
there are many Cthulhu perfumes on that website I was talking about earlier as well.
This is not shocking to me. If you love the Deep One and you want to support books related to the Deep One, then you should pre-order God in the Shed. It's so you got a couple options here. If you're looking to spend some cash and you want to support some friends of the podcast, I recommend that. And I think we should do one more shout out. You guys stretch for time.
Another shout out, Mike. Oh,
I've got-
wait. It is 11.
Joe is wasting time.
Stretch the time.
Christine, random
Listen,
thing.
Oh, my random
We're all
thing.
just talking at once now.
Well, not anymore. Now it's just me.
yes, I want to recommend one more book.
No.
Because
Joe,
up.
I'm the host. You've talked enough.
Shut
It's
up,
Christine's
Joe.
moment.
wait.
No,
Shut up,
Christine's
Joe.
random
I
moment.
You lost your chance.
Shut up, someone tonight.
You've
Okay,
been talking for like 8 minutes. Great.
none of you guys were stopping me.
Well,
We're stopping you
Shut
now.
We're not. Yeah, it's happened.
We're
Christine,
officially
All right.
stopped.
the floor is yours.
All right.
I, as the official host for tonight, give it
This
to
is
you.
very important that this gets mentioned. So, you guys know Liam Dines.
Right.
I thought he was British for like 3 whole months.
It's the Liam thing. It confuses everybody.
Yeah,
I thought he
there
was
was
British.
3 reasons.
Not
3 reasons for me to think this. His Twitter picture, he has a bow tie and like suspenders, and it's sepia tones. So that's reason number 1.
Because that's what British people look like in real life.
According to Doctor Who, yes.
I'm a big Whovian, so yeah, that's where that came from. All right, number 2, he's very like sarcastic and self-deprecating, and kind of witty in a very pessimistic way, and that's so British. Like, come on. And then Liam, British name. So I thought he was British, and I'm really upset that he's not. It's my random information for the night.
All right, Joe. Before I give my unsolicited advice, you have 30 seconds for a shout out, starting now.
Okay. Yes, Christopher, who is in our chat right now, he's been in here. He said he jumped in the chat like 3 hours before the show even started.
I didn't even know there was a chat 3 hours before the show started.
That apparently the chat is open as soon as you create the thing. So, he's been with us since the beginning of the stream, and he has a book funding right now, which is 128 pre-orders. And
You have to order his book.
Listen, if you
like murder.
Yeah, we don't do.
We all like
And let's
murder.
be honest, who doesn't?
We do a lot of science fiction and fantasy, but this is a mystery book, so this is an area that isn't touched a lot on.
Murder mystery.
It's touched a little bit on Drinkshares, but it's an area that could use a little bit more love. If you love
Use more love.
Murder at Veterans Club is the name of the book. Murder at the Veterans Club. Check that book. Go to Drinkshares.com, search for that book, and pre-order it.
It's
It has a really cool
1920s,
cover.
right? I think it's
Yeah, so
1920s,
20s.
maybe 1930s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks like it's gonna satisfy that need that you have for the Agatha Christie type, period murder mystery type thing. I'm really excited about it. It and Faith's book. The one with the really cool cover. Joe, you said her cover was so cool. What is the name of her book?
What's the name of the author? I was talking about
Faith.
that.
She just goes by Faith. But it's the female protagonist and something about like Egyptology.
Search
Oh,
Faith.
1924, Christopher says. He's gonna know the name of her book. Tell me, Chris. Tell me in the chat.
Is it that one with the cool hat on the cover?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't
It's
remember
green.
that. It wasn't coming up in the search, and I've also had like
for the
all
dead.
these beers. So
It's not funding yet.
yeah, so if you follow the book, yeah, I did like that cover.
But yeah, that one's gonna be both of those.
Yeah, A Cup for the Dead is another
Highly recommended.
a mystery draft, so it's a draft right now.
Yeah.
I recommend you check that out because it's got a cool cover.
Good recommendation.
What's that recommendation? So Brenda is over there in the kitchen, and she's really stressed out about tropes now because she just
Why is
learned
she
about
stressed
them.
out?
You guys need to tour TV tropes.
And
It's a really fun site.
she just learned about them, and now she's like really worried to give me ideas. She's like, "What if it's a trope?" And I'm telling her she's got to follow her own advice.
She
just gave advice
who
that said
cares
don't
about
care
tropes.
about tropes. I'm telling her I don't care about them, but now she's over there
She
like
said,
saying
don't
like,
worry
"I'm
about
really
it.
worried
Now
about it."
she's worried.
She's like, she gets it. She gets like.
She's empathing.
Yeah, she's totally empath.
With superb 25.
And hold on, I gotta grab my dog because she
Alright, well,
was
Joe's
in
walking
the-
away.
No, I'm not
gonna
walking
use this
away.
opportunity for my hands
got my
to
Just say goodbye before Joe comes. Poor puppy.
So, building off of what Brenda said, since they just mentioned it.
Puppy. Hi, puppy.
That's not Lola. That's a different dog.
This is Lola.
Wait, that is Lola.
This is Lola.
I'm
It's Lola,
confused.
Nico, and Ray Burger.
Hi, puppy.
She's alright. She was like sitting underneath my feet, so she just came by to
She's so
say hello.
cute.
She's really warm.
Oh, look at her puppy giant eyes. Like,
I know.
So Ray Burger was the one that was barking in the background. We just adopted a kind of puppy.
oh, that was your new dog that was barking?
Yeah, we just adopted a puppy.
Alright, I'm gonna
No,
tell
we're on
Becky to talk.
air. Fred asked me if we were off air. You would think so. She's like, put the dogs down. You're on air.
We gotta say goodnight, guys.
So,
should we
my
take?
unsolicited advice
Shut up.
is 2 parts tonight. First, write the story you want. If you want to write a specific trope because you love that trope, write that trope. If you want to write from a particular perspective because that's how you tell your stories, whether it's first person, whether it's omniscient, whether it's third person, whatever, write it. If you want to focus on a specific genre, even if it's like a really esoteric, strange genre that maybe 3 people would ever even know existed, write that story. Write the story you need to write. Write the story that lives in your heart and needs to come out, because if you don't write it, your skin's going to explode and you're not going to be able to live the rest of your life without being in regret of knowing the story lived inside you. So write your story, however it needs to be written. Second, cut off Joe's mic when he won't shut up.
It's a good lesson. Good advice for all.
All right.
If anybody has, if you guys want to drop out, you guys can drop out. If it's getting too late, I know that it's past our time. But I was wondering, last episode we took questions from the audience, so I was wondering if anybody has any questions.
Leave them for us on Twitter or on Facebook.
Or you can just shoot them at me right now, and I'll answer them.
Not right now.
Joe will not answer your questions. We
That's not true.
to let Joe answer any questions.
I control the stream. I can close this thing whenever I feel like.
What?
He's not mad with power.
Now? I control the
It's inevitable.
stream. Can't stop the feed. Can't stop it,
I he's the villain in Deus Ex Machina.
Well, nobody sent us any questions in the chat, so we
I
don't
have lots of questions.
Can you blame them?
No, I'm just throwing it out there because last time I thought that was nice. Last time
No, it was very cool. It was
Let's be
very,
honest.
very cool. We
Yeah, questions.
I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to have.
I'll ask you questions. Joe.
Alright, let Becky wrap this shit up,
Alright.
and then we can talk later.
You know, it just got real when Christine stands up and was like, "Listen up, bitches."
We need to end this stream. It's past. It's 11 o'clock where Christine is.
So I'm gonna skirt right on past drunk opinions because I think we've expressed them all pretty blatantly at this point. So that being said, thank you for joining us tonight, and remember, may your drinks be shared.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good night, Internet Land.
Good night. Joe, you're supposed to turn